Yes, prediction.
Pain.
We run the clock. Super 16 is the cream of the crop. College football time of year, don't stop.
You're adding this guy.
Just another go dome with the courage, heart, skill, and will. Bringing you the best 16. Serving up a plate for the football fiends. Breaking the best 16 college teams. Football fans, it's the show of your dreams.
Ain't no bias. Chris Zorich breaking truth. Traded in the golden helmet in the past for a suit. With the tape, never lie. College ball, he's a stoop. Breaking the top 16, not the top 32.
I don't mean to cut you off like a Zorich jersey, but you ain't really grinding unless the jersey dirty. Hit the running back like a Mack truck behind the 30-yard line. It's game time. My team Roddy off the sideline.
You look at Chris like this with a fact checklist, going over college teams like a big scientist. He's streaking from his head like in his playing days. Super 16 polls on his show straight away.
It's the FBS, the best of the best from the ACC to the SEC. Pac-12, Big Ten, Mountain West, Sun Belt, and the Big 12. Open your eyelids. Who the best like the clock? Super 16 is the cream of the crop. College football time of year, don't stop. With Christopher Zorich, just another go dome with the courage, heart, skill, and will. Bringing you the best 16. Serving up a plate for the football fiends. Breaking the best 16 college teams. Football fans, it's the show of your dreams.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 13 of the Super 16 poll show with myself and, my three-time All-American stuff, too. That's awesome. I like that. And just an amazing week. But before we do that, I want to introduce you guys to my sidekick, Phill Ottochian, who should probably be happy because of the Bears. No?
Well, you were there to witness it Thanksgiving Day.
I was, yes. And we saw it. We actually shared it together.
Together forever.
There we go.
Listen, I mean, the Bears never cease to amaze in the department of soap opera.
Yes.
They should have their own Spanish network, the Telenovela, whatever the heck you call it.
Novella,
yeah. Between the stereotypes of who they are, like George being, the son of the rich older woman that's got all the money and everyone's waiting for her to move on.
You've watched a whole bunch of telenovelas before?
No, not really, but
I'm impressed.
I'm just listen. We could write this script. They're walking back the firing of Nagy.
Right.
They're using again this shield, and I'm going to get into this week on Keeping It 100. But here, let's just give the condensed version. It's just disappointing in the realms of what we talked about, and we ranted about. It's just you beat the lowly Lions, who have not won a game. And you did it by kneeling down in a manner with which to secure a field goal to win. And to me, as you and my father, you got to meet my dad. I don't know that kind of theory. I know the theory of beating an opponent soundly. If it was the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl or to get to the playoffs or win the division, then strategy, of course. You have lost 5 games in a row and you're kowtowing to the Lions. And instead of putting your defense out there and pounding them with David Montgomery and setting a tone, it's still the same telenovela, whatever. How do you say it? How do you call it? Telenovela.
There you go.
That's what it is. It's so hard to be a Bears fan. It really is. And it's so hard to watch this head coach go out there and he could pull a hamstring with his jaw because he's talking so much word salad. And it's just excuse after.
I haven't heard that one. Word salad.
Just so much excuses, Chris. It's like, last week, if me, you, and my dad are listening and he's using the excuses of what if. But today he's telling you don't say what if. You were the guy saying it the other day. Like there's no accountability to the players, no accountability to self, and it's just overwhelming. And the perfect perspective was your former teammate getting that monkey off his back, obviously, that we're going to talk about a lot tonight. Jim Harbaugh going in there as a maniac, winning the way you should win, and that's pounding the football, understanding the importance of sound fundamentals, running the football. This kind of stuff that we talk about isn't a charade. There is no new era of football. It's always going to repeat itself. The I formation is going to come back.
Right.
And we're going to use it. And all of a sudden, Bill Belichick's brilliant because he's running the I formation again. No, this stuff doesn't. History and football never, ever cease. It just continues to roll. They're going to bring back, they're going to do this. Bubble screen's going to be there. All of this stuff is going to be a part of the game. And unless you have a head coach that is a leader of men, that holds people accountable and has a plan.
Well, who's also selfless. Remember, he said he was selfless.
Oh, yeah, he's selfless. Yeah, all of that. I put football away for the Sunday. I took a whole break.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Saturday, I was embedded in that game. Like we'll talk about that later. But Sunday, I just put everything. I didn't watch one snap of NFL football. I just put it away. I took a break, and then today I pressed play on his presser, and I got even more. They sucked me back in of anger. I was ready to go rant.
No.
Exactly. Now these reporters are like, don't feel sorry for Nagy. He's perfectly fine. He's got plenty of money. And the reporters are kowtowing to this. And it was disgusting to me. Like, you're on the cusp of the playoffs. Isn't that crazy? No, it's the NFL, a parity league. That's what they wanted. You're there, but are you there? Are you there?
Are you really there?
Yeah, are you really there?
Are you really there if you're taking a knee for the winless against the winless Lions? Are you really?
Let's talk to me after this next 4-game losing streak. And again, he was championing Chris. Last point, my mini rant here. Today, he's championing. That's how we say it. Such a hard word.
It is.
Championing.
Exactly.
The fact that they pulled out of the 5-game losing streak, Chris. That's important there. That we got out of that kind of stuff. It doesn't sit well with me. So that's my feelings on the Bears. Obviously, no game. They had a bye, that mini bye after a bye.
Right.
Because they played on Thursday.
Right.
So now Nagy got to watch NFL real offenses work on Sunday. Mac Jones is blowing out the Titans. But, we're still struggling to find our identity in year 4. And people believe in this guy. I find it comical at this point how Bears fans, or most Bears fans, are ready to get the chant going on Sunday. And it better be loud and proud. Fire Matt Nagy. I don't care what the score is. It's in the first quarter, 0-0. The chant begins. And then it continues. Because ownership, they don't hear anything other than that money counter.
Sure. Right, exactly.
They hear that, and they're okay. They could sleep at night. The only thing that deters them is the fan base screaming, fire Matt Nagy. And it's totally legal. Obviously, you don't do it at a Suns game, but you definitely do it at the Bears game. So there's
Did anyone bring up the controversy about him being fired, or
yeah, they did.
About that today?
They didn't bring it up today. They did say
okay.
They're calling it the distraction.
Period. That's all.
Telling them what.
Oh my God. That's
the
hilarious.
Murder. We could do the whole show. The distraction. And he's like, yes, the distraction was hard. How did you deal with the distraction? with your family? And he's like, well, they kind of know because they're with me that it just was a distraction. There's no truth to it. Like, all right, guys, let's get moving in a new direction. Let's do something you haven't done in 101 years. Show fans, season ticket holders, all the way down to the taxi driver he can't afford the ticket. He's got to feed his family, but he lives and dies with the Bears, that you care just as much as he does.
Right.
Because people are at the point where they're going to say, Manage, I don't care. That's what they're going to say. I don't care no more.
Well, I was also wondering what happened to the Pulitzer Prize winning reporter who kind of broke.
Did you see his, did I get bamboozled, or did they switch gears when it became public?
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't see it. So
he wrote an article on it. I thought, I'm trying to get a hold of this guy.
Okay.
I'd love to get him on the show because I want to talk to him too. Like, I don't need your source. I just know that his integrity, after he wrote this piece, he still maintained it because he openly said, it may be my source could have been wrong, but I'm certain that something happened in regards to him sharing that.
Wow.
So public perception wise, changed the course. This again, and I'm telling you, I believe the writer. I believe that they were going to do this, and it's unfortunate for me and everybody that it came out only to make them change and rethink how they're perceived, the optics of it. Because 101 years they haven't done that. So
that's crazy, right?
It's almost like championing getting out of a 6-game losing streak last year. That was the turning point. Now they're doing it this year. So how many losing streaks can you award a coach? Like, we're awarding losing. Think about this. Like, this is like a sign. George Costanza is our owner and GM. Like, come on, Jerry. I go in, I sleep all day. I get up, I clock out. Listen. It's a show about nothing. Wow. It's a team about losing. We're gonna celebrate losing 5 in a row. We've lost 4 in a row every year that Matt Nagy's been here.
Amazing, unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. If it wasn't true, it's like remember Ripley's Believe It or Not?
I remember that show. Yeah,
this guy would be on, and he'd be like playing them. Matt. Both Ryan and Matt are great leaders, like Ted. I love how they collaborate. Is it true? Ripley's Believe It or Not. Oh, my God.
All right.
There's my rant.
It's going to be exciting, though. It's going to be who are we playing next?
What are we playing? We are playing the first placed Arizona.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, my
At
Lord.
home on Sunday.
Right.
That
now they might not have a coach according to some college sources.
Oh, Chris, you got some news there, Cliff.
Definitely don't have any. I mean, I think he would be crazy to go back to the college.
I totally agree. You think they're trying to bring him back to Oklahoma?
Why not? I mean, but at least that kind of just shows you that that's a team that wants to win. They're going to go out and get a proven winner.
Right.
And even if it doesn't work out, folks know that they're looking for somebody that has something behind them, as opposed to like some up and coming assistant coach, which we won't necessarily get into because we have a show to do. See?
Well, I want to ask you something real quick.
Sir. Real quick.
Good evening, all you fans. We ignored you for a minute because we want to send some love and affection our producer's way.
Yeah,
Cherie is not here tonight, handling the chat room. But she lost her brother, unfortunately, and all prayers, all thoughts out to Cherie and her family. It's just terrible that this day and age, everything going on in the world. So me and Chris want to send our best to Cherie and her family, and so sorry for her loss. So,
absolutely. He was young too. He was like in his 40s or something like that.
Yeah, very young.
Pretty tough.
And I know she's doing all right, but how can you do all right with that? It's like this world is a crazy place, and I don't know what else to say about it. It's very difficult. Now I have some.
As long as she knows that, she got you behind her and the fans and stuff like that, she's gonna feel good. Got her,
I think
family behind her.
Just some perspective in life. You only get one life, so the perspective sometimes rolls in when you lose people. Kind of like puts you into another place of thought, and our thoughts can't be even harder and stronger for Cherie and her family in this terrible time, especially with the holiday and everything, and family coming together. So
right.
Thank you guys out there for supporting her, and let her know that she's in your thoughts. Now, I have breaking news, Chris, and I want your thoughts on this because it has to do with you. It has to do with you in a way. LSU is expecting to hire Notre Dame's Brian Kelly as the school's next head coach. An announcement could come as early as tomorrow. Chris Zorich.
Expected to hire
Brian Kelly as the next head coach. This is coming from the smartest man, and it's from Pete Thamel.
Yes. Thamel. He's a college writer. I know him.
Yes. College writer. So
that would be, wow. I mean, that would be really, that wasn't even on my radar. And that would be interesting. Literally a 360 on his philosophy, going from graduating champions to, rolling in the SEC. I mean, it's on a script. That would be a little different.
It's not on this script. It's so weird because Shane just sent me that update, and I was going to ask you, like, what are your thoughts about these? You got Lincoln bouncing in the middle of the night, just goes to his team in a 5-minute meeting and says, "I'm leaving for USC."
Yeah. Well,
you're talking about Cliff
I'm actually going to cover that in our thoughts of the day. See, because then we kind of have a year.
So
I'll let you. The day going.
I'll let that go.
Okay.
Till then.
Yes,
but
sir.
this Brian Kelly stuff is literally coming out 4 minutes ago.
That is huge. I didn't.
So we got 6,000 shares and likes, for God's sake. It's crazy.
That would be. Now, I heard earlier in the day that they were going to talk to him. So, 4 hours go by, and all of a sudden now it's going to be announced.
They
so
must have talked to him with some cashier's checks.
That'd be really interesting. Really interesting. Really interesting.
This was last week's poll.
Yes, it was. We had
Wake
Forest. Hey, hello. I'm sorry.
Hello. Wake Forest, BYU, Wisconsin. 13 was Michigan State. 12, Oregon. 11, Baylor. 10, Texas A&M. 9, Oklahoma. 8, Ole Miss. 7.
Who's that team? Who's the next one?
Who's that team? Go Blue. Michigan. 6, Notre Dame. Brian Kelly. 5, Cincinnati. 4, Oklahoma State.
Interesting.
3, Alabama. 2, Ohio State. They can write on the band. Can they write a win in their college? Number 1, Georgia. That was.
Will there be some changes? That would be interesting if there were some changes up there.
There's got to be some changes, Chris.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just by
teams won.
Teams
Rick would know. Rick chimed in with a go blue.
Rick.
I'm surprised he's still awake considering we were exhausted watching the game together. Exhausted.
Look at this. It's got to be the smartest man jumping on there writing that.
Hilarious.
I didn't write that. But yes, Rick's walking into a different tune this week. Then you got,
he does have a little skip in the step.
Cincinnati. Did Wisconsin? They pulled out a win, right?
How about that?
Nagy, maybe a trade. Nagy to Notre Dame.
Wow, Nagy. Hey, I'd take Luke Fickell before I took Nagy.
Yeah.
Come on,
Luke Fickell could be going into it. This could be a big shakeup here. Holy cow! The chess move.
I don't.
The
do you
puzzle.
leave Notre Dame for LSU? I mean,
Jesus.
Didn't he just sign? Kelly just signed like a contract a while ago. So
this is going to be
Rick,
interesting. We might have to go live if it has it.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he would leave for LSU. That means, what job would someone leave for, right? I mean, the athletic director from before left Notre Dame to go to Duke, right? So, why not? Anything's possible. So, it'd be interesting.
That's strange. If it happens, we got to.
I just want to make sure, because David set the record straight. Wisconsin got walloped by Row the Boat.
They got destroyed by Minnesota, so they're gone. So it's going to be Iowa versus.
Right, but you said, did Wisconsin win? You asked
exactly, because someone wrote, I thought they lost.
They did lose.
So when I saw Go Wisconsin, because I was talking about Big Blue, I was like, did I read that wrong?
I think he was laughing, I think.
Oh, he was
being sarcastic.
Or
champion, or
so it's going to be Iowa versus Michigan.
Yes.
For the Big Ten championship. Alabama, Georgia.
For what game is that?
The SEC championship.
Okay, now you're jumping way ahead now. That was supposed to be in the top 5 matchup. That's like 20 minutes ago, man. I thought we were. I thought we were unveiling. I thought this was like an unveiling show.
Are we Canadians? We don't have any secrets here.
I thought this was an unveiling show, and you're throwing out all my secrets, man.
I'm saying this is going to change, and we're going to talk about it. Everybody wants to talk about it. Now the LSU news is hitting. You got Bullets and Jason and all these Brett all fired up. Will Brian Kelly leave for LSU and Notre Dame have a new coach? Oh, it's going to be a big show. Big show. Why don't we get into it, Chris?
What a great idea. How about that?
Huge weekend of football that set the tone here as we move closer to the CFP on the Super 16 poll show with Chris Zorich every Monday night. This guy leaves bias at the doorstep and comes in with his true, calculated, erased notes, thrown, ripped, re-note, make another note. Yes. It's Chris Zorich coming in with his 16 this week, Chris. And we also have the football list. Hopefully you worked on that.
Yeah. Remember
we could take your top 5 if that's
okay. That'd be good.
Okay.
I had 30 people over for Thanksgiving, dude. I had no time to put together.
30 people at
30 people. 30 people. I love my wife and my family.
That's good.
That was good.
Now, this family, where do we start? We gave you last week's poll. We start here with 16. What do you want to talk about to begin?
Let's do it. Number 16.
Number 16. Texas A&M.
Interestingly enough, we're just talking about it. These guys dropped 6 spots to 16 because they lost to a lame duck coach and Coach O, who I love. Ran into some issues, obviously, but interestingly enough, mentioned that he was not going to coach the team in the bowl game. If they won 6 games, they did, and he kind of walked away. But they had really high hopes. They're going to finish 8-4 with a regular season. They losing to Mississippi State and LSU, unranked teams, really hurt them. However, they have a chance to kind of hang their hat on the fact that they were able to beat Alabama, and Jimbo Fisher was the first assistant coach to actually beat his mentor, head coach, the main guy, Nick Saban. So that's kind of a good thing for him. He's going to finish 3rd in the SEC West, and, of course, they will be bowl-bound. Let's look at number 15.
Number 15, Pittsburgh.
Apparently there is a time delay there. Thank you, Phil. So we got Pittsburgh, who's debuting for the first time in the second to last week of the Super 16 poll show. And reason being, a lot of folks, hey, Chris, where's Pittsburgh at? Why aren't they in there? Why aren't they in there? Currently, they're 10-0. Excuse me, 10-2, which is great. But the reason why they didn't get in there earlier was because they wound up losing to like teams like Western Michigan, 7-5 MAC team. You can't do that early in the year and expect it to get ranked when you're not playing any ranked teams. So that was really the hardest thing. After they beat a good Tennessee team, they wound up losing to Western Michigan. So, however, they are representing the Coastal in the ACC championship game, and they may be playing number 14.
Number 14, Wake Forest.
And we didn't even rehearse that. So you want to jump in here because this is what we're talking about, how there's going to be an ACC championship with no Clemson.
No
When was
Clemson.
the first time that happened? No Clemson. And you have these two teams that no one thought would be 10-2 this year.
Right.
And, minus a couple losses, I mean, these teams would have been ranked really high.
Yeah. I mean, the quarterback from Pitt, is silky smooth.
Yes.
This kid's got NFL talent. I'm watching him, and he is that's a football player that someone's going to draft that kid if he comes out. I think he's a senior, right? But there's a winner attached to him. It reminds me of your boy Jake Plummer a little bit when he was coming out with a better arm.
Yeah.
And just listen, I love those guys that are slick within the pocket that can get skinny and deliver. The Wake Forest season, as we've documented on this show, has been one that has been, spectacular.
Absolutely.
But they had the bumps in the road.
Sure.
But they were able to finish out strong to help their case here and be in a position where they haven't not done and won this ACC,
right?
Have a chance to win it. But Pittsburgh is hot right now.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know how. I mean, we talked about like the 50s for like some, being undefeated for 7 or 8 games or something like that. So I can't imagine when the last time they won the ACC championship or the championship they were in.
Got to be in the 40s.
I'm sure.
I don't remember the Demon Deacons winning anything but a basketball tournament. That's the truth. Maybe they won a bowl in the late 90s.
Sure. But I think what's interesting, though, is now they have a chance to kind of see what competition is like, right? So now they're actually competing against the Clemson. They wound up losing to Clemson, but they had a chance to kind of see what it takes to be a champion. And people might say, well, Chris, they play Clemson every year. Yeah, but they're playing Clemson every year after they've lost 4 or 5 games. They're not playing Clemson when they're the leaders in the division. And I think that's important for folks to know, because when you're 0-7 playing Clemson, it's a little different than when you're 7-0 playing Clemson,
Exactly.
And so
I think people need that perspective. They don't understand that.
Right.
I think that's
and it's
a great
helpful
point.
Because, you go into game preparation, you go into the week of practice, you go into the weight room differently. You have a different step, and you work harder. And now for them, they have a chance to kind of see what it takes to be a champion, to beat a Clemson, to beat these great teams that they have, or the better teams in their conference. The frustrating thing for me is we're talking about these guys who are going to compete for the ACC championship, and they're at 15-14. That's the hard part, right? Because you look at the other conferences, even the Pac-12 is a little higher with Oregon and Utah, but it's just interesting how we can kind of take a look at this and see where the American Conference is with Cincinnati kind of coming in, maybe bumping out one of the Power 5 as a Group of 5 conference in the American.
It's a good. I like where you rank these two teams because let's face it, we said it on this show. Wake Forest. Well, there's two stories, two dynamics to it for me. The fact that you couldn't beat Clemson, who has been the Darth Vader, the empire of that division. You have to beat those people. Then you become a paper champion. As people, you've won, you got lucky, you did this. You don't want to be in that. You want to set the tone and build your program and establish it and become the new empire. You didn't do that. So that puts a glitch on your season. No matter how this ends, that is going to not sit well with those players because you had to beat Clemson. And it was prime for the picking too. Now Pittsburgh, who is more of an established football program, has a history and a past. They come rolling in here on a hot streak with a quarterback they throw the ball all over the field.
Right.
They don't even run half the time. Matt Nagy might be calling plays there. So this is going to be, a tone setter. And then the last point that I wanted to make is the Wake Forest coach. Like, is he going to dart out in the night? Is he going to be the next guy going to the next place? That's something, once these coaches start, okay, we had a winning season. Now the next, if Brian Kelly leaves, is the Wake Forest coach going to Notre Dame? That stuff is what I don't like about college football. It's like the only thing I don't like. I like the transfer portal. I like how they established that. I always think players first. But coaches, I don't think it's fair to the kids, the families, and everybody committed to a program to have all these coaches moving in the middle of the night. You go to your –
That's hard.
It is. It's too hard. It's too hard on families. It's too hard on the kids. And it goes the other way too, firing coaches in the middle of the night and destroying their families.
Right. And the easiest excuse to that, which it really is not – and I applaud the NCAA for doing this, although it's just very few things I give them credit for. But, a lot of people talk about, well, hey, if the coach can go, the kids should go. Well, if that's the case, then you are going to decimate a whole program. I mean, so, for example, like what everybody knows about Lincoln Riley, if everybody decides to leave, if they're given an opportunity to transfer – without that counting against them, the whole team's going to be gone.
Right.
So, in that regard, you can't let that happen. So you got to set up a system. And maybe this transfer portal is the answer, because what a lot of folks don't know about the transfer portal is that you can only do it once. So people think, oh, hey, he transferred there and then transfer there and come back. No, you can only do that once. And so if you're going to make that leap, then has to be a serious one. But however, I do love the Dr. Pepper commercial when the kid talks about going to the transfer portal with Brian Bosworth.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Dude is like, no, man, I'm a sophomore. He's like, no, it's my time. The dude comes back and says, hey, you need a punter? And they're like, no. He's like, I got the Dr. Pepper. Like, come on, son. I love that commercial.
I love it too.
Well, I digress. So let's
boy transferred right away.
Hey,
me and you called it, right?
We're going to talk about that.
I don't want to ruin all. This is the telenovela.
Actually,
telenovela.
Let's look at number 13.
Number 13, Oklahoma.
Bingo. We hit it right on timing. That wasn't even planned. We just knew what was going to happen. We can talk about this, man, because here's the thing. I mean, first of all, great game. Phenomenal game for those folks who had a chance to see it, because again, great teams in the Big 12. This is a game before they even go to championships. So this is kind of like Auburn and Alabama in the Iron Bowl. This is the battle of Bedlam, and it's Oklahoma State. I mean, this is it was a great game. However, when you look at what the results were, what the ramifications are, right? So you got, thank you very much, Steve. So you got Lincoln Riley going to SC, and then about 6 hours later, guess who jumps in the transfer portal? My boy
Snake, the Rattler.
Exactly.
The Rattler
now,
Snake.
So now here's the question. Does the freshman, Caleb Williams, does he jump in a transfer portal to go to SC?
Oh.
You got to be, I mean, that got to be scary, right? Because Caleb, I mean, he has no idea who's coming in.
Right.
I mean, no idea who's coming in. He's going to be the guy. He just forced them to make a decision to sit the Heisman Trophy candidate down, which they did. So now he transfers.
Yep.
You're the main guy, but who comes in? They have a totally different offense.
What would you do, Chris? You're his dad.
If I'm his dad, I'm saying stay put and see who comes in.
That's what I would say too. I'm totally on the same page as you. If this coach is whispering sweet nothings in his ear to come to USC,
first of all, I'm
shame
gonna
on him.
I'm gonna go knock on his door. I'm gonna go beat his ass. Because you freaking talk to my kid. You talk to my kid who's 18 years old. You better come talk to me.
Exactly.
I will. Hey man. Anyway, sorry.
I love the passion coming out here.
But
hold people accountable.
You can't do that to an 18, 19-year-old kid.
Exactly.
Who, I mean, he thinks you're walking on water because he was sitting behind a Heisman Trophy candidate. Man, I never gonna play here. Then all of a sudden, Riley had the balls to sit Spencer Rattler down, put him in there, and he blew up. So yes, I'm sure he's going to be in his ear. But like I said, don't talk to my kid as a freshman. You come talk to him, talk to his parents.
I would, as a father, you stay there. We find out who the next coach is. You've committed to Oklahoma. Sure. They've given you a scholarship. Right. You've proven yourself a leader. You want to show all those other guys that they're going to stay there with you. F this coach leaving out in the middle of the night for more money. So I want to see how this plays out. And the transfer portal now with the coaches being able to move, obviously that has always happened since I was a kid. They can move. So now this kind of levels the playing field, so to speak. So it's interesting. Spencer Rattler, though, where do you think he'll end up?
I look at a great correlation with Jalen Hurts when you want to talk about character. You want to talk about somebody who I want on my team. There was I forgot what it was, a tweet or something like that. So after a game, and it wasn't like they played like Oklahoma State, but after the game, Jalen Hurts and the weightlifting coach, they were working out together, doing something. And I looked at that, and the strength conditioning coach was like, "Hey, an hour after the game, this is what's going on." And Jalen he still has football pants on. I'm like, I want that guy to be my quarterback, And so then you fast forward a little bit, he gets benched, sits there and takes it like a man. Right. The whole season, comes in, wins, and then is like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and go somewhere else. And by the way, Alabama, he leaves there and goes to Oklahoma and almost gives them a national championship. Right. Again, I want him as a competitor.
Yeah. Rattler, though, as I've told you, seems to be a little arrogant.
Yes.
There's a difference between cocky and arrogant.
Sure.
And it's a fine line at that position. I just think maybe this is the humbling that he needs because there's no questioning his talent. He needs to be a little stronger, get in the weight room because he's got like a 17-year-old body. Instead, you got to be a 20-year-old body when you're playing quarterback. If your goal is to play in the NFL, you can't look. I mean, Jared Goff, are you going to sign Jared Goff to play for you? No.
Right.
The Lions are in deep trouble with that. So my point is, looking at the lay of the land, like a University of Miami or Florida State, somebody that needs a quarterback to kind of build back this program that has been once proud. Those are the school, I would like to sit and look at where a Rattler, obviously he needs a coach that's going to be tough love with him. So that's another aspect of that. So he's liable to go back west. I think he's from Vegas. I forget where he's from.
Okay. Well, it's funny. I'm looking at Bullet's comment. and he's saying rather USC, I think he'd probably rather throw gasoline on Riley and light him up before he goes back there because he sat him down. And I don't care. I mean, you're talking about like an 18, 19-year-old kid.
Holy Nike. We got breaking news.
Yes.
Brian Kelly, official. LSU.
No way.
I swear to God.
Come on, bro. You're kidding me.
The Athletic is announcing Brian Kelly.
Dude, I'm no way. No, absolutely no way. That's insane.
Has officially just confirmed. Done deal. This is from a reliable source to me. So I'm telling you, Brian Kelly now has left Notre Dame and is going to LSU. LSU.
Wow.
He pulled the Lincoln Riley in the night, Chris. We were talking about this kind of stuff 2 weeks ago.
This is crazy. Oh my God. I'm looking. I just saw it right now. I'm looking at it right now. That's insane. Well, I mean, here, let's go and talk about it, Phil. I mean, what are the benefits from where, basically he was at Notre Dame for 12 years, did not win a national championship. And he figures he can go to USC. I'm sorry, he can go to LSU. They just won a national championship 2 years ago. Okay.
Oh my God.
And he figures, hey man, I'm already married. I'm not going to be messing around with some chicks like Coach O was. And hey, I've had the discipline. I've been involved in a discipline program like Notre Dame, so I know what's right and wrong.
Wow.
So this is really
it's official. Brian Kelly will be hired as LSU's next head coach. Sources confirm. Kelly, who took over in South Bend in 2010, is the winningest coach in Fighting Irish history, has made a pair of college football playoff appearances, and has Notre Dame on the doorstep again this year. It is now on ESPN's Bottom Line. Brian Kelly to LSU is a done deal.
Okay.
Look at that.
So let's actually take a look at this. Let's examine this, right?
Yes, we're live here, reacting to this
pause
live
on the Super 16 Pulse. So when you look for a coach at Notre Dame, who do you look for? You look for someone special. You look for someone who can handle that environment. Right. Well, at the time, do you get a coach from the Big East? Okay, which in Brian Kelly was hired. But the thing that I remember most about the whole situation is his players. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a he called a team meeting. The meeting was outside, and he just said, "Hey guys, I'm going to Notre Dame. I'm out." And players were pissed. They were yelling, they're screaming, they're running out there, upset and everything. And that was a season that they were, I think, 11-0 or 10-0 or something like that. They had a chance. He did not coach them for the bowl game. So historically, you have this. I mean, this is in his DNA. He's done this before. Okay.
Right.
So you look at what's going on here, and you have the power, you have the ability. If they want you that bad, they're going to keep it on the down low until you finish what you started this year, at least. Right?
I can't believe he's leaving on the cusp, on the precipice of this whole bowl championship series, because Alabama, Georgia,
they can still get in.
Exactly.
They could still get in.
They could still get in. And you know what, Chris? He's screwing over their chances. How does the committee look at this if he leaves? How do they look at it, Chris?
I mean, please.
Right?
First of all,
will they bring him? If it's coach, is Marcus Freeman your head coach now? Does he take over? Who do you have?
He's been there for years. He's been there for years. I say no.
Who's the guy?
I love him dearly.
Who's the guy, though?
So now the athletic director, Jack Swarbrick, better pull out that list of 4 or 5 candidates he has in his pocket that he carries all the time. He starts thinking about that. But as of right now,
staff has to coach this team.
Oh, absolutely. And I think he has an assistant head coach who hopefully, that responsibility would go on to that person, because you'd want to keep that chain of command going. But I mean, as players, Notre Dame especially, again, graduating champions is his motto, because he can't talk about wow, Kathleen, okay.
Kathleen is fired up.
She's definitely fired up.
Show me the money in the middle of the night.
This is interesting, because this is what Notre Dame coaches don't do, right?
Right.
I mean,
that's the dream job, right?
Well, apparently not.
My God.
Apparently not. So the idea that, again, why would you leave, right? I mean, I'm sure he's getting paid. I mean, he's getting paid a lot of money. I don't know how much he's getting paid, but I mean, he can't win a national. He wants to win a national championship. He had a chance to win 2 on the Division II level. Now he has a chance to. I mean, he wants to win one here.
Teo's here.
It's hard. It's hard to win at Notre Dame, and this is basically what he just told everybody in the country, that hey, I'm leaving Notre Dame, top program in the country. I'm leaving there because it's too hard to win a national championship. I'm going to go someplace where I can win a national championship. Now, obviously, have not had a chance to talk to him, so I don't know if that's what he's thinking. But again, I mean, it's not that hard to imagine why he's leaving.
Right here, live on TTNL's Super 16 poll show.
So interesting. This was so
Chris
unexpected.
Zorich. We are getting breaking news. Brian Kelly, Coach Kelly, has left Notre Dame to go to the Tigers in the SEC.
In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night during the season.
It's only 8:30, but still.
It's the
middle of the night. It's the middle of the night when these kids are trying to compete with a possibility of going to the national championship game.
There's an opportunity there, right on the cusp of them being able to play for the national championship and get into this, and he's conceding to me, saying, we're not going to get in. I got to go. I got to win a championship. I'm going to do it better at LSU. I'm going to be able to recruit better. I'm going to be able to get my guys and and build this program. I am shocked.
You thought folks hated him before because he wouldn't win a national championship? I guarantee you Notre Dame, because, I mean,
remember what's his name? Lane Kiffin, what he did to Tennessee?
Yes.
They were throwing shit at him.
They actually burned a mattress in front of the football facility.
What is going to happen at Notre Dame tonight?
But
my God.
Well, no, I don't think.
You couldn't wait till after the season. Chris.
But see, this is where the alumni comes in, right? Because they're saying, listen, and at the end of the day, they want a coach to set an example for the student athletes and everything else. And so when you look at what he did, right? I mean, let's say Houston beats Cincinnati. Let's say Alabama loses to Georgia Tech. To Georgia. I mean, you have all these scenarios that now all of a sudden Notre Dame is in the top 4 and has a chance to compete.
Right.
And what do? You leave your team?
I don't get it.
And again, if you want to do, I would tell LSU. Now, they're saying, hey, man, you got to come here. We're paying you a ton of money. You got to come now. And
that's how they did it.
Oh, absolutely. That's how they did it.
Yeah.
But Brian Kelly got to say, wait a minute, I
guarantee it's $100-something million deal.
Oh, it has to be. For him to leave like that, it has to be.
It's definitely.
It has to be. That is so interesting, man. That's insane.
Jeez, this is breaking news here.
Craziness. You know what? Let's skip a couple because I know we're kind of pressed for time here. So I'm just going to run
right through them. We'll run through them. You just list them.
Yes, sir. Number 12.
Number 12, BYU.
Again, have an amazing year, 10-2, going to be in the Big 12 in a couple of years. They may even have a chance to go to a January 1 bowl because they are independent and they're not held to anybody's conference. Let's take a look at number 11.
Number 11, Michigan State University.
Okay, I'm not a geography guy. I had no idea Ann Arbor was so far from East Lansing because you had snow flurries in Ann Arbor and you had a damn snowstorm in East Lansing. That was absolutely insane. But they wound up moving 3 spots to 11 after being
Iowa. No Iowa on this.
Here. You know what? I'm going to read some off. Look at Iowa's schedule.
And I could bring it up.
You're actually going to see why. You're going to see why.
Well, I'm surprised because they won the other division and they're going to be in
right, but
Michigan State.
But
people want to know.
Please, that just talks about how weak that other side is.
Well, because they did beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin beat.
Who's ranked what? 14? Or not even in this.
They didn't beat Wisconsin. I got a course correct. They lost.
Okay, there you go. See?
So there you go. You're right.
Thank you. You're getting me fired up, man.
They beat Minnesota.
Yeah.
Illinois.
Right. Oh, yeah. Illinois.
They beat Nebraska.
Okay, thank you. So last 4 games, they
lost to Wisconsin.
Yes. So
and Purdue.
That put them out.
That was their 2 losses.
That put them out. Hey, man, they were highest 3, I think.
They were.
Us, you know? We were there with them. We were on the Iowa bandwagon.
We were. The corner's back and they're winning
exactly.
again.
In the center, we had an All-American. We had our center. Super 16 All-American team.
We should come up with a Super 16 / Walter Camp help All-American team.
There we go. I like it. All right, so let's go to number 10.
10.
Number 10, Oregon.
Okay, a few things to say about this. This is great because they wound up moving 2 spots to number 10 after beating Oregon State in the Civil War. Interestingly for them, they would have had a great year. Again, they lost that first game to Stanford. They were up there. They beat Ohio State second week of the season. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get it together. And it's really interesting. I think they're doing something smart. They're actually playing the Pac-12 championship on Friday night. So that's going to have a huge draw. I think it's going to be on like 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. They're going to have a huge draw. Folks are going to be excited watching that game. It's going to be a big game. So that's one of the good things that's going on with Oregon. Interestingly enough, not sure they'll be in a January 1 Bowl, which is kind of interesting because they're playing for a conference championship. So let's take a look at number 9.
Number 9, Baylor.
Talk about an amazing year. The Baylor team has had just a couple ups and downs. Wound up, they actually played 4 ranked teams and beat them. 3 ranked teams and beat them. Unfortunately, they lost to TCU, who had no coach at the time. That was terrible, terrible, terrible situation. And but here's the thing. They wound up beating Oklahoma State, right? But here's the thing. As we all know in the coaching idea, that it's very hard to beat a team 2 times in the season, except if you're Green Bay and you're playing the Bears. But the idea of being able to beat 2 teams is really hard. They have a chance to actually do it. They already beat Oklahoma State. They have a chance to – that was Oklahoma State's only loss. So it's going to be an interesting game. They're going to be playing Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship. So I think that's going to be an exciting game to watch. Let's move on to number 8.
Number 8, Ohio State.
I'd like to give this game some justice, so we'll talk more about this when we talk about Michigan. But interestingly enough, there's a possibility we may not see Ohio State on January 1, which is kind of interesting. But again, they took the first loss on their chin, beginning of the year, worked themselves back up, played an amazing game that we'll get into in a couple minutes, but they will have a chance to go to a big bowl because they travel well. So anybody who's not handling the national championship games, they're going to want Ohio State in their game because they travel very well. So let's move on to number 7.
Number 7, Ole Miss.
Now, this is kind of exciting. Ole Miss moves up one spot to number 7. I'm excited because this is Lane Kiffin, who everybody kind of wrote off as being this young jerk guy. Folks, he's 10-2, number 2 in the same division behind his mentor, Nick Saban. Here's the thing we have to remember. He was at Florida Atlantic 2 years ago. 2 years ago. He was able to bring Ole Miss back. Phil, I don't know if you got any comments on this one, but it's so interesting that he was able to kind of do this in the same division, not the opposite, but the same division as his mentor, Nick Saban.
I think Lane Kiffin is a showcase of the early birth of these coaches moving into the night. He was the hot hand ticket from Tennessee to USC to US, and then kind of got humbled. Raiders. I think he was like 29 years old as the head coach of the Raiders. Can you imagine?
Insane. It was insane.
Unbelievable. And, a journey starts with one step. This guy.
Oh, you're getting philosophical on us.
Philosophical on us. When it comes to coaches, I look at people like this that with a hot hand, kind of cocky, arrogant, way too early to be who he thought he was. Mm-hmm. Humbled, worked at it, and now is here. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, Chris. This is where you stay. Right. Notre Dame comes a calling. Nope.
Right.
I don't care. Lane, you were down in the dumps eating cheeseburgers at the local pub, and everyone hated
at Florida Atlantic.
Exactly.
No one gave you anything.
Don't forget that all of these supposed fans of yours hated you. They hated you. You've rebuilt yourself, and you're developing a brand at Ole Miss. We talked about Wake Forest, this same kind of thing. Lane has to stay there and build Lane's Saban's Alabama, Lane's Ole Miss. That's the most important thing. If he moves on to Notre Dame, I think that's the wrong hire for Notre Dame. Because when's it going to happen to you again? Like, do we not learn? Like, are we that abused wife that we're just he's going to change?
That was a bad correlation.
I'm just saying, you got to learn from this stuff. The Chicago Bears, I feel like
here you go. Okay,
I'm in a terrible relationship. They suck me in based on my loyalty to this team. Sure. But football, like I'm getting a text from my buddy Joe. He's a police officer, big fan of yours.
Well, tell Joe thank you. And I'm not understanding why you're reading text during the show, but okay.
It's popping up on my screen here.
Okay, all right.
So
sure.
I can read above like a teleprompter.
Fair enough.
A president.
Fair enough.
Read my lips. No new taxes. Anyway, we got no football by Thanksgiving, meaningful football with the Bears. Mm-hmm. This coach is rebuilding Ole Miss. Hopefully Lane stays there. I am getting another text. I don't know what this is. Notre Dame has to make a move at head coach. Sources indicate there will be some momentum among the university that they will elevate Marcus Freeman, former Chicago Bear and Ohio State linebacker who has captured the first shutout in how many years for this defense? But again, hold on. Are they trying to build? This is a reliable source, Chris.
I love me some Marcus Freeman. Me some Marcus Freeman. And I will tell this to him to his face. And I'll be absolutely 100% honest.
Could we get him on the show now? Call him up.
Well, not after I make this comment, maybe not. I'm being 100. I'm being positive.
Call him and make it to his face. You said you'd say it to his face. Marcus. It's Chris.
Guess what? I don't think you're ready yet. So here's the thing. I mean, I think a perfect example of this is that I've had kind of close experience with was when we won the national championship and Barry Alvarez was our defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. He had a ton of opportunities in front of him, head coaching opportunities, but he knew he wasn't ready. So what he did, he went into Holtz's office and said, look, I want you to teach me how to be a head coach. I want you to show me show me practices, show me attitude, show me speak, whatever it is, teach me how to be a head coach. And they spent a lot of time the following year together. And he was able to walk into Wisconsin and turn a horrible program around into a powerhouse and change the athletic department as a whole, became the athletic director, and now they have a couple of statues around the campus of Barry Alvarez. So that's, I think he should take that step. Richard, thank you so much, but that would be suicide for me. I would not.
He's
even.
Not ready for the head coach job.
Thank you very much,
Chris, assistant coach, right there.
No, I enjoy being an executive recruiter. I enjoy my life. I enjoy hanging out with Phil. There you go.
I'll take the job, Chris.
Love Notre Dame, but I know that I have my limitations. Yes. Getting back to my boy, Marcus Freeman.
That's a great thing, by the way, that you know your limitations.
Sure. Now, for Marcus, though, he came from a good program, not a great program. Well, it's not me because I'm not 6'2", so that's a good thing. More like 5, more like 6. So, I think that he's been able to gain that experience at Cincinnati. And again, it's fine. Notre Dame is a different environment. Let him be an assistant coach there for a couple of years and then maybe kind of have that coach and waiting deal. But it wouldn't be fair to him after, he hasn't even been at Notre Dame for a year yet. And then if they have a chance if he gets elevated, again, my opinion, and like I said, I love Marcus like a brother. I think what he's doing is great. Had a chance to spend a lot of time with him, talking to him, MC some events with him. Great times on my podcast. And the idea of putting him in that situation, again, this is not an easy job. This is not something that, oftentimes what happens at Notre Dame is that you have to leave in order to understand the environment and come back. So I would prefer if he left and came back, but I don't think it'd be fair to him right now to make him the head coach. Again,
listen, I respect you so much because it takes a friend. We talked about the booger technique, that guy that just lets you go out right. When you got, you're keeping it 100 here. You don't think he's ready. Just like Lane Kiffin, we talked about with the Raiders. Mm-hmm. He wasn't ready. There is a maturation process of becoming a head coach. It's no different than Matt Nagy for me. Like I was screaming from the rooftops. This guy has never been a head coach, and he's the charter franchise coach. I'll watch, but there's no way, And everyone's like, "You're just negative. You're just no." I'm a realist because I know what it takes to be a head coach, and what you're saying. This guy's just establishing himself as a defensive coordinator. That changes in like 5,000, like Lansing in Michigan, the snow there versus there. Right. That's 50 times that. That's the job responsibilities for Marcus Freeman. Like everybody gets the okay. What was his name? The heavyset Patriot OC that became the Notre Dame coach. What was his name?
Charlie Weiss.
Charlie Weiss. He's not a head coach. He was never a head. He was a great offensive coordinator, play caller. That's it.
Period.
That's where that growth is, and that's your skill set. I'm the most real when it comes to coaching because I've been around great coaching my whole life. I've met some of the greatest, from Joe Gart, my father, obviously Sam Rutigliano, Larry Pasquale, who my dad was talking about the other day, special teams coach. He fought for, assistant coach pay. Listen, I've been around it. I knew Weiss was never going to be a leader of men. Mm-hmm. He was a play caller. That's it. You can't get caught up in these guys that Dave wants that. You experienced that, Chris. He wasn't a head coach. He was a defensive coordinator. He wasn't a good leader or teacher. This stuff, that's why I was so like San Diego State, here's Jim Harbaugh. I knew this is the guy.
He went through the process.
Yes, he did. And you see what a head coach is. I mean, he knows his personality comes through the team. Those are the best. Nick Saban, nobody better, right? You see him talking at the end of the game. That game, the Iron Bowl, we didn't even get to talk about. There's so much going on tonight. Right. We weren't expecting this, Brian Kelly, for God's sake. But the reality is there's a certain level to which you're prepared. Now, could Marcus Freeman be a great head coach eventually?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's just not ready yet. That's what Chris is saying. Now, if you thrust him in there and he fails, he becomes the next, I told you so. Exactly. I told you so. So now,
and that's the part that he has to watch out for, because here's the thing. I mean, everyone has an ego, right?
Yes.
And so now he's like, well, wait a minute. They're saying, okay, I mean, they're saying I can be the head coach, not Notre Dame. Hey, this is, and now his pay goes from whatever he's making now to like quadruple what he's making now. And it's like, well, hey, I can, but somebody, hopefully one of his advisors, his buddy, somebody who's real with him could pull back and say, hey, man, put that hand on the shoulder and say, look, are you ready yet?
Does he travel with Kelly too?
Notre Dame. I don't know what
they close like that.
I don't know what that relationship is. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, you look at what happened with Marcus. He had a chance to go to LSU, but the powers that be at Notre Dame, Kelly and the athletic director Jack Swarbrick, opened up the pocketbooks.
You're throwing this wrench in the whole story now. This guy bounces in the middle of the night.
Bingo.
Coach O wants Marcus.
Exactly.
And they deny him. The offer goes up from spaghetti to spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah, so he walked away from LSU. Rightfully so, right? Because now what he did at Notre Dame, he established a different way of recruiting. He signed some 5-star kids that are supposed to be coming in the next couple of years. So whoever comes in there, and let's just say, here's a scenario. And this is crazy. And I was a Cincinnati fan in the beginning, but what I'm about to say is craziness. If they hire Luke Fickell as the coach at Notre Dame,
I believe that's going to be the guy.
That's the kind of individual that you want.
I believe that's going to be the guy.
So now
in my gut, that's what my gut is speaking.
You have those guys back together. They have great relationships. I didn't talk about on this show, but they both have 6 kids, and Marcus blames on his wife. But for some reason, when they were building their house, they kind of misjudged the time. So there was about 6 months where they moved in with Luke Fickell. So you had 12 kids and 4 freaking parents, bro. It was crazy, but that's the type of relationship they have. So that's great, right? So now,
Fickell and Freeman are friends.
Fickell and Freeman.
That's the transition then.
Fickell recruited Freeman to Ohio State.
Yes. Chris, there's so much to get into. Can you, real quick, look at Shane's comment here.
Players are chiming in now. They're not happy.
Recruits. Now the recruiting. People that are committing to Notre Dame are now fired up.
Here's what you do. Here's what you do. If I was the AD at Notre Dame, okay, I'm sitting in that chair.
You've been an AD, so you have experience.
This goes down.
Yes,
I did, because I mean my coaches, when I was an athletic director, we're tight. So I got no surprise. I mean, if one of my coaches came in and said, "Hey, I'm having some problems, I want some more money," whatever it is, my door's always open, my phone's always on for you. So if Brian Kelly, if this was a surprise for Jack Swarbrick, who's the athletic director of Notre Dame, that's a problem. First of all, okay? Think about that. you have a coach. You're supposed to have this relationship, especially at Notre Dame. It's supposed to be tight. So even if LSU did come to him, I would hope that we have the type of relationship where you come to me and say, hey, Chris, you know what? I just got a call from LSU, man. This is what they're talking about. So now we're sitting down and talking about that, right? We're talking about the hard issues. Mm-hmm. If he found out about this just kind of, in the middle of the night, it's bogus. Anyway, so if I am Jack Swarbrick, I am right now calling Luke Fickell's agent and say, hey, we would like to make Luke Fickell the next head coach at Notre Dame.
You're going straight for it.
We're going to make this public, but I want him to finish coaching his year this year, we will have assistant coaches coach our team. But it has to be public because these recruits have to know who the next head coach is going to be. But I'm going to allow him to go ahead and finish his year with Cincinnati. That's what
I like it. I like that.
Because if we don't do that, then now we are just as bad as LSU. We're just as bad as Brian Kelly now.
Right.
Even in the middle of the night.
You're doing the classy thing. Well, Shane wants to know.
This is about integrity, though, right?
Can you send a Notre Dame visor to Hallis Hall? Just saying, it can't hurt.
That's a good one.
Can you also just comment on the Urban Meyer? Because I could never see Urban Meyer at Notre Dame as great a recruiter.
No, absolutely, and that was. There were rumors that he literally was on a plane over there and diverted, but that has since,
because of what happened, you could never see them hiring him, right?
That's gone. That is gone. Exactly. Especially this recent thing.
I'm just letting you know.
I'm just saying. First of all, when you take a deep dive into his programs, they're a little shaky. He doesn't have a lot of discipline with his guys. Guys are doing some crazy stuff while he was the head coach, and that we saw at Florida, and we saw that.
And Tebow, I don't want to start a political.
But
I will say
that ship has passed. So I can ask you, who would be your top 3 people that you'd go after if you were the athletic director at Notre Dame?
Top three. Okay. Number 1 on my list, obviously, would be calling Michigan.
Okay.
And getting Jim Harbaugh and saying, hey, I'm just the athletic director of Notre Dame. They screwed you over. They made you take a pay cut. They didn't believe in you. Yeah, you won Ohio State. Now everyone loves you. 3 weeks ago, everyone was talking about, you got to get over this hurt. He can't do it. He can't. We say you can. That would be my number 1.
Okay. Right.
You like that pitch?
I do. I like that.
David Shaw of Stanford, my number 2. David Shaw has the experience dealing with the academics, great recruiter. You talk about academics, they're above Notre Dame, in my opinion, in regards to where their standards are. But he brings that tenacity, that feel, that vibe, that Notre Dame. I think he would get Notre Dame over the top. Both him and Jim happen to be Stanford guys, would get them over the top of these things because they put a price, just a huge emphasis on fundamentals and running the football and open. That's where Notre Dame has won. That's what you do. And then my third, obviously, is your guy, Fickell. I just think this guy, especially when you add the cherry on top where you can keep Marcus Freeman in this position, let him build his resume, his credentials, where eventually he's going to take that step to become a head coach somewhere. But Fickell's ready. He's winning at Cincy. You think he's not going to win for you? Those are my 3, Chris.
Oh, by the way, he beat Notre Dame with 3-star local kids from Cincinnati that didn't go to Ohio State and Michigan. They went to Cincinnati and they beat the crap out of Notre Dame, who has some 4- and 5-star guys. So
did you like my 3?
I loved your 3. Not too happy about Shaw, but yes, I do.
Go ahead. Let's give your 3. Let's go at number 6.
Number 6, Notre Dame.
Thank you, Brian Kelly, for kind of taking over this whole conversation. But I think this is
the whole show tonight.
This is interesting. The whole show. So here's what I do. The first thing I would do is I would get on the phone with the athletic director at Alabama and Nick Saban and say, guys, look, I'm looking for some advice. I want the best head coach out there. What do you think? I'm not asking Nick Saban. Nick Saban's not going to leave Alabama.
Right.
As respect from AD to AD, that's why I'm talking to the athletic director at
you
Alabama.
Respect what they've built there so
Absolutely.
much so that you're allowed to pull down your curtain and say, help me.
Absolutely.
Help me.
I want to be where you're at. Tell me what I would camp out at their house, but that's a whole different story. So anyway, so I would ask those guys, see who they say, and take that into consideration. But my first person would be, and I'm going to start from the top. Unfortunately, Nick, I know Nick isn't going to leave, so I'm going to call Kirby Smart and say, hey, are you interested? Let's say he says, okay, so that'd be Kirby Smart would be number one.
Yep.
2 would be Luke Fickell, because I like what he stands for. Not too happy where he's at. Don't think, Laz, that would be a hard one right now, because I think Illinois beat them this year, so that would be rough.
You calling Lovey? Lovey?
That would be like my 14th one. That would be like, if I got 14 no's, then maybe I'm gonna call up after that. So Smart, Luke Fickell, and this is gonna amaze you, but I think this is I love this guy's character. I love this guy. I think he's a maniac. Is Mario Cristobal?
Really?
I spent some time with him. I actually played against him when he played Miami when I was at Notre Dame. I think he is a great coach. So those are my top 3. But
wow, Cristobal.
But the main thing though is that I'm going after the best coach out there first. So that's by far. If I can get Kirby Smart if I can match what USC paid Brian Kelly and Georgia's going to pay him that, I'm in. So
wow.
But I'm showing my commitment to winning. Now, unfortunately, at Notre Dame, what the athletic probably has to do, he probably has to go talk to the board about the folks that he's thinking about.
Right.
See, that's the hard part, right? Because the board is so influential at Notre Dame. But those are my top 3.
You're not going to call Bill Cowher?
I'm not going to call Bill Cowher. Only because he's been so far removed from college.
Well, that's why I always say that. I joke with people.
Well, but
Bill Cowher's so far removed from coaching. He's gonna come back in and all of a sudden hit the ground running.
Well,
no.
But he doesn't want to convince 18-year-old kids to come to school. Are you kidding me?
Dave Armstead's not on your list. I'm shocked.
Okay, now I'm gonna rip this
Show him the money.
I'm gonna rip the camera off, right? Exactly. Dave watched that, man. Well, perfect example. Why isn't he coaching now? Enough said.
There you go.
Enough said.
All right.
What number are we got time to finish?
Let's finish the poll.
Right. Let's go. Okay.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. Cincinnati.
Possible head coach of Notre Dame.
People may say, Chris, you're an ass. How are you doing this? You got them ranked 5. Everybody else in the country thinks that they should be in the top 4. Why are you ranking them top 5, even though you love Coach Fickell? Here's the reason. It's the level of competition, folks. If you're undefeated in the ACC, that's a different story. If you're undefeated in the Pac-12, that's a different story. If you're undefeated in the SEC, that's a different story. You're undefeated in the American Conference. Long pause. So that's the reason why they're not in my top 4.
Because I agree with you.
They're not. I don't think. Now, again, we'll see. However this thing works out, whoever they play, I'm not. I told you so person. maybe say it very loudly or maybe print it on paper and say, what is this? But the idea that I think it's just because it's the level of competition. You say, well, Chris, they beat Notre Dame. They beat Notre Dame handedly, and Notre Dame suffered in my poll.
Yeah, but we talked about this at the time. Chris dropped his team, but also the perspective that a lot of these blog boys and writers don't understand, the keyboard tough guys, is the appropriate time with which you play these teams. Like I always look back, well, we beat so-and-so and they beat you, so therefore we're betting. That's not how it works. When did you play so-and-so? That's where the timing is. How much have you improved? We looked at Iowa. They were playing great football. They had a big injury. They let down. Now, where are they? They're where they should be. They're not even in his poll. I think they should be in the poll. They would be in my poll, but I'm saying they're not in the top 4. They're not, even though they won. It goes all the way down the list. Who are they playing? Wake Forest. Same thing. Chris has been very, very on point, really, with your rankings. I'm very proud of what you're doing here because I think you are truthful, you're transparent, and you're also measuring the competition and the performance within it. I thought I was holding you accountable with Clemson early on. You were just getting used to your Super 16 poll show. Now you got it down to a science here because I'm with you. I think Cincinnati's competition isn't what you're seeing other conferences play.
And if I'm wrong, I'll be more than happy to tell you that I'm wrong. I mean, I got no problem to admit, hey, man, I was wrong. Absolutely. I'm not trying to hide and trying to say that I'm the only person that can do this stuff. But the idea is that I think that being able to play a certain level of competition is just important. And when you look at the folks, the teams they played, that's a huge indication on the success they're going to have. And if they're Cincinnati is the best in the American, and you saw it. They're dominating folks. But everybody talks about the bowl game last year when they lost to Georgia by a touchdown. Half of Georgia's team was in the NFL. They didn't even play the game. So anyway, let's move on to number 4.
4. I got a quote from Coach Kelly for you.
Number 4, Oklahoma State.
Phill Ottochian has a quote by Brian Kelly, and it's a breaking news break. Here we go.
Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly was asked if he'd ever leave the program of his own volition on Saturday after a TV segment of him started people talking about a possible move. Kelly did not mince words and swiftly rejected any notion that he'd leave the Fighting Irish for another job, stating, "No. I mean, look, I think Mike Tomlin had the best line, right? Unless the fairy godmother comes by with that $250 million check, my wife would want to take a look at it first. Then I'd have to run it by her." That was 8 days ago.
Wait. That's what he said?
That's exactly what he said.
That's the quote he said.
8 days ago.
Okay, so now it's about the money? Dude, you got more money than a guy. I mean, come on, man. Really?
Now listen to this from Matt Fortuna.
Wow. Yes, who was a guest on our show.
Guest on your show. This is usually how things go. But Brian Kelly has ghosted everyone at Notre Dame. Just spoke to one assistant who saw reports on his phone tonight, not Chris Zorich, as he was exiting a recruit's home. The news broke when I walked out of his house, so I look like a effing a-hole. End quote.
Okay. See, this is
Can you imagine?
This is the type. This is what we're talking about here, right? So this is, first of all, we talked about this before. I have an open door relationship with my assistants, with my head coaches. Yes. I would hope and pray that my head coaches have a relationship with their assistants. So now, if a situation like that is going down, am I not calling my assistants first.
Jesus. I can't believe this.
I mean,
that quote right there is just leaving them out to dry.
This is, I mean, and this is the part this is the underbelly of college football. And Notre Dame wants to win, so they're going to try to go after, people that are like this anyway. And hopefully everybody wasn't bamboozled about the type of person that Brian Kelly is. But it sounds like, what he did at Cincinnati with those players and that coaching staff may be happening here. And if Matt's quote is correct, I mean, what do you say? I mean, what do you say when that recruit calls you 10 minutes after you leave the house? Hey, man, what's your line? Did the athletic director send you a memo to tell people?
5-star recruit Walker Howard to me minutes ago. This is from Cokie Riley, college beat writer. 5 minutes ago on Brian Kelly hire for LSU. Quote, he's going to bring us to the national championships. This kid was also considering going to Notre Dame. Quarterback. It's already, the underbelly has started, as Chris Zorich stated. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma. They're number 4. Big win in Bedlam. We can't even talk about these
exactly. Games. It's unbelievable. But great game this weekend. That was one of them. And I mean, let's think about it. They beat 4 ranked teams, Oklahoma, because everybody's like, hey, Chris, why you got Oklahoma State so high? I mean, no defense, what about Baylor? Well, listen to this. They beat ranked teams, Kansas State, Baylor, Texas, and Oklahoma. Why shouldn't they be ranked high?
While they were ranked. You can't go back and say, well, look where they are now. Look where Texas is now.
Right.
That's not how it works. You look at the time frame with which they were playing.
Exactly.
I always hate those blog boys that do that. Like, no, they only beat Texas. No, Texas was ranked when we played them and beat them. That was a big win we had to overcome. How do you think we got ranked? Stop. Don't look at it from Jimmy John's perspective. Listen to the 16 Chris Zorich
keeps it ranked, which is why ESPN keeps it ranked when you look at the schedule. And this is damn sure what they're doing in the CFP meetings. They're talking about teams when they're beating teams. They're talking about beating teams that are ranked at the time. So
let's get through the rest of the list, and then obviously the big news. If you're just tuning in with my guy, former Notre Dame All-American, 3-time All-American, Chris Zorich.
Dude, he is very, very surprised. I am
reacting live to
I am
the news.
amazed.
Everybody's surprised. Chris thought I was giving him a prank.
I did. I thought I was getting bamboozled by my boy.
Here we go. Number 3, Chris.
Number 3, Alabama.
This was terrible. 4 overtimes. I mean, running backs, nothing. Quarterback. This was an awful game. I thought they were going to lose. I was texting people like, y'all realize if these guys lose, Lane Kiffin's going to come in and represent. So it was terrible. Somehow they won. Nick was happy after the game. This is going to be crazy. Georgia is going to manhandle these guys in the SEC championship. We just have to stay tuned.
Will you be shocked if Alabama beats Georgia?
I will be extremely shocked. I will be beyond shocked.
I love it for the record. Talk about that. Love it for the record.
What about number 2?
Number 2, Michigan.
Go Blue. This is amazing. This was one of the most exciting games all year for me. Rick and I were just, we were exhausted, tired. It was amazing. Absolutely.
Oh, my God. It was amazing. There he is. Go Blue. Blue.
After 8 years and 5 with him of not being able to beat Ohio State, and it wasn't by a field goal. It was decisively. He beat them, and they destroyed Michigan State. And people are like, "Whoa, but Michigan State beat Michigan." But okay,
again, same point comes into play. Ohio State beat the crap out of him. Michigan's growing. That's what a good coach does. They build and learn from their mistakes and letdowns. How do you respond? That's the great coaches. That's where you establish national championship quality.
It's a time. And what did he do? He took a pay cut.
He took a pay cut. That's why I think if Notre Dame or Chicago Bears, please go bump in the night. Get the right guy. I mean, listen, I said it last week, well before he won this game. He's been my number one guy for years because I know what a great football coach Jim Harbaugh is. And Michigan fans might not, because they could be let down because of the letdown. They don't see the big picture, but Jim Harbaugh is a maniac and does everything in his power to win and win consistently. He hadn't recruited great quarterback play. It was a shock to me that the quarterbacks that were there, that he couldn't get a good, and finally he got some stability there in that defense. Oh my God. I was living and dying watching that, driving through the mountains in New Hampshire. I was dying because it was just, and he's back to Pep, and it would freeze. And then all of a sudden they're kicking extra point. And I'm like, oh my God, I had to watch it all on tape. And when I got to the hotel later that night, just to watch, because I wanted to watch the game anyway, I knew the result. But it was such a great game. Talk about pride and emotion and rivalry. Oh, it was so fun to watch that game to me.
And it was great because it was a beatdown. It wasn't. Yeah.
It was
it wasn't like 56-0, 56-7 or whatever, but it was a decisive win. It wasn't by a field goal. It wasn't. They actually went out there, had a game plan, knocking guys over, playing big on big. It was a great, great game.
I've let a lot of comments go, so I'm trying to catch up on your comments to see if there's any. But what an amazing game, and congratulations to all. Listen, a rivalry is a rivalry. I hate when people say it's not. How much is it? Is it a rival? Brady, your former quarterback, Brady. What's his name? Brady. What was his name? Quarterback. Played for the Browns first round. Quinn. Brady Quinn. Yeah. Brady Quinn. Is it really a rivalry? Does they have a Brady? You have a position to talk and teach young fans. Don't be a sellout. That's my advice to you. Don't play that. What happened? Is it a rivalry now, Brady? Yeah, after the game, you're in. Don't play that game. That was just my little reprimand. It didn't sit well with me. I'm
Fair enough.
Stop with that. Even the Bears have getting beat every time by the Packers. That's still a rival. You get up for that. You win. It's up to the coach to make sure. Obviously, Nagy's not the guy. But when the new coach gets in there, because it is going to happen, you just put it into the universe. Hopefully, it's Jim Harbaugh. Anyway, great game by the...
After it turns out Notre Dame, right?
Yes. Would he? I know his dream job is the Bears. People ask me, Jim Harbaugh said this at Stanford. My dream job is to coach the Chicago Bears. It's written there. It's audio somewhere. Someone has it. But I remember hearing it and embracing that. So people have asked me, well, he's never going to leave and go. That's his dream job. There's something about my dream job would be the head coach of the Bears too. See? So what I do, if I was the coach of Notre Dame and the Bears called me to fix it, I'm going to sit down with my wife and she's going to remind me, well, that was your dream job. Do you want to take that on? Do you want to take that challenge? Or do you want to stay? And you got to think about it. You got to think about it. Are you going to do it? If it's your dream job, you do it. That's it. But Ted and George will figure that out after they talk to Ernie Accorsi and hire a wide receiver coach for the Jets as their new head coach. He's a great play caller. Great. Really great.
The two games he had a chance to call. He was great. He was great. They have me playing the Lions. They have me playing Lions both games, but really it was great. He did a great job calling play.
He called it against the Lions both times. Our number one team. On the Super 16.
We went so many different directions. I forgot we had a number one team.
Number 1, Georgia.
45-0 against Georgia Tech. This is the team that I do have one comment though.
Yes.
The defense only allowed an average of 7 points per game. That is terrifying. Terrifying. 7 points a game. They played 12 games. That's insane. They only allowed 83 points, but it's absolutely crazy.
Has there ever been a defense that's done that?
Maybe in the 40s when they weren't like throwing passes or something like that. I mean,
that's a great point, Chris. I mean, in the modern day college football game,
7 points a game.
I don't think people realize how.
And that's that. Hold on, let me jump my computer for a second, which I haven't been able to do. But
I'm sure you're getting texts up.
My phone's blowing up. I'm trying not to look at it because exactly. The thing though is Georgia had 1, 2, 4 shutouts, 5 shutouts, 4 shutouts.
4 shutouts.
And then 3 shutouts. And then some games they only allowed field goals.
And they're putting people in, second stringers. JV players are coming in, still playing hard.
Which is why they can play so well, because their second and third team guys got so much great experience this year that when they go in, they got the confidence. They're like, hey man, let's roll. And there's not a huge significant drop from the first team guys.
Now, do we have top 5 games this week?
We do, and then we'll be very quick with them. But I just wanted to comment on one. It was an awesome game. It was Michigan Ohio State. So that was an awesome game.
Yes.
All right. So these top 5 games is actually going to be 6, but it's only 6 out of respect for
5B.
The ACC, because first one, SEC championship, Georgia versus Alabama.
Huge.
Number 2 on my list, Big Ten championship, Michigan versus
Iowa. Could Iowa pull a weird upset in this game?
I mean, you understand what Harbaugh has to lose. I mean, he had to take a pay cut before this. He has a chance.
That is such a slap
to compete for the national championship. Do you think he's going to let let Iowa get in the way? He has a chance to go back to the AD and say, and all of his naysayers, and say,
Notre Dame and Chicago as leverage. That's what I would be like. Pay me.
Right.
You want me here? What happened? I took a pay. Like, that to me was a slap in his face. I'm just saying.
Or if I'm an AD at Michigan, I'm blowing up Jim's phone.
You better get over there tonight.
Let's talk. Hey man, where you at? Where you at? Hit me up. Where you at?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do a 360 search on him or something like that. All right. Number 3, the Big 12 championship, we have Baylor and Oklahoma State.
Yes.
My 4th one, because it's
you got Oklahoma State winning that, correct?
I do, because I absolutely do, because it's just going to throw a monkey wrench in what the CFP is going to do, which we'll find out tomorrow. The College Football Playoff Committee, what they're going to do tomorrow with. I'm not going to talk about with this whole Notre Dame thing, but with with Oklahoma State going into the Big 12 championship. Do you take a 1-loss Big 12 champion over a no-loss American Conference champion?
Yes. Well, based on what you're saying.
Oklahoma State played 4 ranked teams.
You brought the 4 ranked teams at the time. You also brought the level of competition. This is going to be crucial how they set this deck. Well, obviously this tomorrow when the other poll, not this one.
Yeah, the other really important poll.
Yeah, when they come out with their list, I want to see how they line up Michigan and Cincinnati.
Absolutely.
That's how I want to see how they set this deck, because obviously Brian Kelly and the news tonight, if you're just checking in, Chris Zorich, you're going to have to go back and listen as he reacts live to this, what he thought I was bamboozling him.
Yes.
And Shane Marsaw giving us the updates. We got another update for you here.
Okay.
But let's finish this off.
Okay.
Let's finish this off.
I was waiting to break in.
Top 5 shows. We'll finish off with your thoughts on Brian Kelly again. For final thoughts of the show, we'll have to end on that, Chris. You'll have to switch up your script here.
Fair enough.
I know we've talked about it a lot. It's been the whole through the whole show off tonight for good reason. I mean, this is a shock to the world, let alone the former 3-time All-American,
the Irish world.
Yes,
the
exactly.
Notre Dame followers. This is not who Notre Dame is. This is not the way Notre Dame does business. Exactly. And I guarantee you, he surprised a shit ton of people because they all thought he was this great stand-up coach. Exactly. And now he leaves in the middle of the night when, by the way, his team has a chance. He has a chance to go on to the national championship.
Now, I talked to Chris about this earlier. This is what he said back in September.
It's on the script. I thought it was going to be a great quote. And you dived in the
script.
The annals of
it's on the script.
Super 16. Yeah,
it wasn't Brian Kelly's script, but it is here. What's your last big game for this weekend? It's
here. So I talked about the American because it has such a factor into the Final Four. But my last big game, and this is sad because the ACC is 6th, but it's going to be the Pac-12 championship, which you're going to see a rematch with Oregon and Oregon State. So,
wow, look at you!
But as I mentioned before, the folks at the Pac-12 commissioner was a genius putting that game on Friday because all the other games are going to be on Saturday.
I like that.
There you go, Rick. You're a genius, Rick, and not only because you're my best friend. I
thought I was your best friend. Oh.
Yeah, it's only been 16 weeks, so yeah.
I like I got to meet Rick because we like the same music. I like how Rick throws down. He's truthful. I wonder how he feels about Jim Harbaugh's pay cut now.
Oh,
that's gonna be in the wind, trickling.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and he has the milk crates to prove his music ability too.
The milk crates. I got to hear a little "Ain't No Half Steppin'" from Big Daddy Kane tonight. Listen, Chris Zorich, every week he does his final thoughts. But every week on this show, the Super 16 Poll Show with Chris Zorich every Monday night here, 8 o'clock. We're going to be breaking down the bowls. We're going to be breaking down what happens after this weekend with all the championship, rivalry week, then championship week. College football never lets you down. Neither will we. I love this guy. I love this show. I love the transparency. And there is no bias here when it comes to Chris. Just like the song says, no bias with Chris.
There you go.
But here it is, Chris. I want your final thoughts. But before you do that, here's a breaking Erica Sagdagi. She's also blue check mark. I don't know. Everybody gets a blue check mark, I guess, on Twitter. But she's a college football analyst. She writes, and Trey Wingo is retweeting this.
Okay.
Notre Dame has targeted Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury as one of the potential replacements for Brian Kelly, league sources tell ESPN. Kingsbury has 1 year remaining on his contract as they are driving deep into left field by Castellanos, and that'll be a home run. I don't know what that means, but I don't know. Castellanos? What is that? Do you know what that is? I have no idea.
Don't, but I'm not. Is that who you need right now? I mean, is that who you?
Chris, thank you. Are we going to Cliff Kingsbury to save Notre Dame here?
I mean,
he's not in my top 10.
Well, no, but where did he come? Was he at Texas Tech? Where did he come from?
Texas Tech. Then wasn't he at Let me look him up. I don't want to mistake. I thought he was at Oklahoma for a second. Cliff Kingsbury.
Right.
Head coach.
No, he played at Texas Tech.
Where is he? Head coach, Arizona Cardinals. Wikipedia. Please. Yeah. Where's our guy? He was a coaching career. Houston, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. Then he was coaching with the USC Trojans and now Arizona Cardinals.
Okay. So that's the guy you're going after?
Yeah. Former player for the Patriots, Saints, Broncos, Jets, the Cologne Centurions.
Watch out.
Buffalo Bills, the Montreal Alouettes with the leader himself, Mark Trestman, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Well, at least he was a player. But, I mean, has he had success?
Texas Tech, though.
On the college level? I mean, what type of success on the college level? Okay, because you're talking about two different things. Does Cliff Kingsbury, does he want to convince 18-year-old kids that they need to come to school? Again, right? He did that.
Right.
A lot of folks don't like to do that. A lot of folks, when they get to the pros, they're there for life. And that's the reason why, because trying to convince an 18-year-old kid to come to your school is crazy.
I love Rick. I'm just going to lay back to this nice mellow beat.
See?
It's 88.
See?
Set him straight. Ain't no half stepping. Word.
See?
You ready? I'm ready. Rap a step to me. They want to get some, but they know Chris Zorich, so they know the outcome. Look at that. Freestyling. All right, here.
Rick on. We need to have Rick on in the back as our DJ.
I wish they wouldn't give us these freaking music claims all the time.
Yeah.
YouTube and Facebook will shut you down if there's music in the background.
Right, exactly.
I got a copyright claim. I'm trying to figure it out. It's Fire Nagy chant. Fire Nagy. Nope, it was a beat in the background on the loudspeaker.
No, really?
I swear to God, on Thanksgiving Day. Remember the video when he's walking and none of the players even respond? 30 players go by. No one even shakes his hand. Well, the beat forced a copyright claim. Yeah, it says you have a copyright claim. I go, for what? I look at the video. It's because in the stadium they were playing a beat. I go, this is how sensitive we are in this world. We can't figure this out. Come on. We're promoting the music. We could.
There we go.
Are we gonna next? They're gonna go to weddings. Wait, did you pay to play Big Daddy Kane? Billy Joel needs his piano.
The royalties from that.
We'll get some royalties. Anyway, final thoughts. It's been a huge night here. I know I got to bounce, but
yes, you do.
I think we owe it, though, to the fans. Real quick. Breaking news. Head coach Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame for LSU. Apparently, it's a 10-year deal north of $100 million. I'm getting a text right now from my guy, the smartest man. So he's leaving for over $100 million. It's north of $100 million. So final thoughts. Give me one or 2 minutes.
This is something that huge Notre Dame fans are really surprised about. A lot of folks had a lot of confidence in Brian Kelly. But at the end of the day, I'm sure he's thinking, hey, I'm a head coach and I want to win a national championship. And I've been here for 12 years. It's a challenge, unfortunately, that he could not fulfill. It's a challenge that the last national championship team was 1988, the team I was on. So that's bad in that respect. But when you think about what Notre Dame stands for, this is not who they thought Brian Kelly was, guaranteed. They don't think Brian Kelly had the character to leave in the middle of the night, not talk to his assistant coaches, as we heard. There was a quote from an assistant coach that he was blindsided. He walked out of a recruit's home, and then he just saw on his phone that Brian Kelly was leaving, but he didn't get a call from Brian Kelly. So what does that tell you about his staff, the respect he has for his staff? I'm just surprised because Notre Dame was supposed to recruit a different type of coach. And we all thought he was, I mean, on the back of their jersey, it says graduating champions. So instead of winning national championships, at least we can brag and say that, hey, 99% of our guys graduate. Well, now he's going to a school that the graduation rate really doesn't matter in the SEC and at LSU. So that's kind of shocking. But, you know, what we're finding out is that he's just like every other coach out there and wants to get paid and win some games. So he's going to have a $10-year, $100 million contract, and he'll have a chance to compete for national championships, which is what he wants to do, not what the Notre Dame family is all about.
Amazing job tonight, breaking down every week. Chris Zorich takes to the task like nobody else with no bias to bring his top 16. The Super 16 poll show brought to you by the National Football Foundation, the College Football Hall of Fame, as well as the Football Writers Association of America. We can't thank them enough. I can't thank Chris Zorich enough, breaking down this news all night. If you're just tuning in, Chris and I talked about the Brian Kelly moving on from Notre Dame in the middle of the night, like the Baltimore Colts did, like Lane Kiffin and others before him, showing his true cards, true colors, as Chris is saying.
Well,
it's
again,
all about the money, Jerry.
No. He did this with Cincinnati.
He did the same thing.
He did not coach the bowl game. He rolled, and that's unfair to these kids.
It's unfair to the kids. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It leaves a worse taste in my mouth when I hear about that assistant coach at the kid's house leaving and finding out as he's walking and buckling his seatbelt in his whatever car he's driving.
But that's what I'm telling you. That's you're supposed to have a better relationship with that.
This guy showed his true colors.
Absolutely,
he might actually benefit you. Everything happens for a reason, right?
I think
we're going to see. We're going to be breaking all of that down here with Chris Zorich. Maybe we get a guest next week talking about who's going to be the next Notre Dame head football coach. We gave our top 3. If you just tuned in, got to check those out. We'll see you next week, 8 o'clock on Monday. This week, though, on TTNL, Keeping It 100 will be live on Wednesday night talking about this and a lot more. Maybe, Chris, you could jump on and talk about it then too. I don't know what your schedule is, but we'll see. But this is huge news. Obviously took the show in a completely different direction, but you really kept to the task, Chris. So proud of that. I gotta keep to my task as I'm getting text right now. But
as a daddy,
it's so crazy. Guys, we'll see you. Keeping It 100 and my TTNL Draft Dr. Phil's breakdown of Bears versus Lions will be out later this week. Shout out to my guy Bearlissimo for cutting the tape and sending it to me. I'll be producing that. And we'll be back, obviously, BHL right after Bears versus Cardinals on Sunday.
Phil, thanks again. Pardon me? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
He's coaching against the Bears on Sunday. You got to be focused.
Really?
We'll see you next week. For Chris Zorich, I'm your guy, Draft Dr. Phil, on the Super 16
Poll Show.
There you go. Thanks for watching the Super 16 Poll Show with Chris Zorich. Like, subscribe, and comment. This has been a special presentation of the Tape Never Lies Network. Performance over politics.